We're just gonna leave it on for a while. So now you are on it. I'm in it because it's picking up, I think, the camera. It's picking up you, and then it will follow the sounds of whoever's talking.
Somebody asks a question.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we have an owl at Onondowaga.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Ooh, it's exciting.
Going to go to the bathroom and change.
Oh, sure.
Right or left as I go out the door?
If you're out the door, just, it's kind of like on the diagonal across.
Okay.
You'll see like a family room, and then that's the women's bathroom.
Okay. I go into the family room to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, you're gonna see a bunch of toys and things.
Okay.
And then the bathroom would be to the left while you're in the family room. And the lights should come on, yes. Yay. Hi, Kyle.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
All right, I turned the owl on. We are. I don't know how to get rid of it. Actually, I am the queen of making things big. So I believe in having a whole big screen. I maximize my stuff at work all the time.
Look at you. Hold on, huh?
The funniest is both Marcia Birkin and I are on the tech committee.
Uh-huh.
This is quite an interesting thing. As I said to Patricia, it's like the blind leading the blind, but we got this. We both know different parts of it, but I'm fine because we didn't have any slides to do today. When we get slides, it might be a little bit more, but it's the same stuff I do at work. And actually, Marcia's used to like Apple products or Mac products, and I am an HP person. That's what we use at work. So to me, this is an HP, and it's familiar to me where it's a little bit different from people who are using different computers.
Right.
I don't know. All I do is I just breathe. I just try to do it.
I think it's going to be awesome.
I think it's gonna be awesome too tonight.
So, huh? Huh? The coach said,
I was-
up and running?
Yes, it should be because I can see,
I can see you.
yeah, and there's one person. And I was just looking to see if anyone was gonna come into the waiting room. I think Nancy Kraus definitely should be coming on. Cause she felt bad she wasn't gonna be here in person. So I'm assuming that people can see this. If I can see this and I'm in Zoom. Everybody should be able to see this. Now, you didn't have any like slides or anything to show today, okay,
No.
because that would be a next step
Yeah,
for me.
next week I probably will have slides.
Okay, we will
But
get
not
that
this
too.
week.
Well, I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited about your part of this series.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's so nice and warm out today.
We'll see. That's fine. Well, what did I do with my earrings? I mean, I've got earrings on, but I brought special earrings.
Did you put them inside like your moccasins or anything, or your shoes? Well, you can tell things that I do to pick things
Yeah.
sometimes.
I'm guessing, I'm gonna check my backpack, but I'm guessing I left them like on the kitchen table or something. Schedule. Darn it all. Oh, they were such
And-
pretty earrings.
And they're not inside your
No,
other little.
nuts. And I know that there's no sense going out to the car because they would have either been in my backpack
Mhm.
or in my basket. And I'm shocked I didn't put them in my basket.
Thank you that you wear them next week. That means.
But I have so many wearing. Darn it all. Oh well, there's far worse things. Yeah, I bet they were sitting right on the kitchen table.
And I think the only other thing is, I think if people are online, it is hard to hear from if anyone's asking questions, so I'm gonna there's a mic we can do, you should be, being next to here, this should be, you don't need a mic. I think sometimes if we ask questions or something, anybody who's on Zoom may not hear it as well. Which I said it's interesting because I've been on the meetings with the owl and zoomed in, but I think because it's a smaller space.
Like around a board table or something.
Right, and I can usually hear. So let's see.
Now they're watching me put on my moccasins.
Oops, excuse me, come right on in.
You want to speak then?
I am your speaker, yes.
Many years ago. We had it was an interfaith group, women's group. We tried. Jewish community.
Nice.
I got in the car, I felt good. Oh my God, don't stop for a cop.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't bring anything tonight.
Okay. How's it going, so we had a good meeting, huh?
We had a great meeting on Sunday. I thought it was great. I thought we talked about some really interesting things.
Yeah, we had a couple of programs, hopefully.
Yeah. We're not gonna have a microphone though. I can tell you that. We're not gonna have a microphone. So if we ask questions, we just have to talk loud. So yes, I thought we had some really good ideas for programs. Or I thought we had some really good ideas for programs. And a lot to do with history. And I mean,
I want to say that. me see the reading.
Hello, ooh, somebody who may have skills with this. Do you know how to turn the microphone on, if we need the microphone? I mean, the power is on, but, and I turn the microphone on, and then it
It seems
didn't
to be
work.
working.
Those handheld, but, you know, we just said if you have questions,
Oh, I
we'll
see.
just have to talk loud.
Yeah,
We'll
I don't even
talk.
see the handle.
The handhelds are over there.
Over here.
But I can't remember what buttons I was supposed to press for, like I turned on the handheld and then it didn't do anything.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess green light. Didn't see that.
I think I see something.
Okay. It's gonna say oh, top. Hello.
Hi, how are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
It's like, oh yeah. Two small cups.
I got this on, this is.
That's good. That's good.
Did it slowly.
It's doing the Parks and Rec.
I tell you, when I opened it up, there was so much stuff open,
Okay.
like what, I was like.
Did you have fun?
Oh, yeah, I was closing everything. We're having this discussion at work if, because like, I use a monitor and then I have a laptop, so 2 screens. I have others who use 3 screens, and now we have a bunch of these screens sitting there.
Right.
Waiting to see if we have some new people coming, but they said if we want an extra screen, grab it. And
Oh.
then I'm looking at my desk going, where am I gonna put it? And sure enough, yesterday I was on Facebook, and when I posted something, there was somebody who said, I have 3 screens, now I have no room on my desk to work. And I'm sticking with 2. That's-
Yeah, I think the I choose for something.
I was laughing, going, that's right,
Oh.
Ooh. Thank you. Hi, Nancy.
Hi.
Good, all right.
Oh, Paul Winnie. Yay. No, he's from Tonawanda band. He's a really fantastic activist. I hope we'll be able to see the presenter this time.
Well, I think I'm gonna get, could you see me on here?
Yes, but I could see Rabbi Zohar when he was in front of the computer, but the whole time he was talking, we could not see him.
Because I've been watching, as I've been moving around and talking, even the owl has been following me as I've been getting up and moving. So I
Okay,
think it should be okay, because the owl was following me when I moved from here to over there, and then all of a sudden, I ended up back on the screen again.
can you stand where Trish would be presenting?
I have a feeling either she's gonna be like right where, I don't know if she's gonna be seated or standing in front.
Okay. All right.
Shoot.
Well,
Hopefully.
What's her name?
I'll do it. Nancy.
I'm gonna get up from this spot, and we're gonna see how the owl follows you, or who's seated here.
Next week I might have.
okay, there's Trish.
Yep.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Trish.
Hi, Trish.
Hello, Ron.
Hi.
All right, we see her. That's good.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
All this finagling.
Yeah.
The owl's supposed to follow. Did you attend overnight? Because on one of our meetings, I was doing work and I was.
Seasick. I'll be right back, I promise.
I have not in this room. But I use actually.
Oh, yeah. Everybody will be. He's wearing a sleeveless top. He's wearing a sleeveless top.
Nancy's in Florida.
Oh, she's in Florida.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. That makes sense.
Stayed on the short today. It's 60 degrees, I'm sitting outside.
Come see Jerry. Yeah. No, it's just some kind of communal.
Look.
Yeah, she told me.
He's pretty talented. She didn't tell you. It's also. That's right.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Hang out there somewhere. I mean, the same way.
Okay, sometimes we hear that. Although they do what they do today. What they do. I may try that.
I need the glasses. Thought I could do it without them, but I can't. I have too many things bookmarked. There we go. So all I have to do is start talking?
Yeah.
Okay,
You get to introduce yourself.
I will, eventually.
Yeah.
Actually, it would be easier if I got a glass.
I'm better
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Getting blown away out there. Certainly, yeah. It's really exciting for me to have, I think it's 45 minutes, is that correct? I don't wanna go over my time, but I don't wanna shortchange you either, so. Do you know, Stacy, is it 45 minutes or an hour?
It's like an hour.
An hour, okay, I'm fine with an
It
hour.
could be an hour and a smidge.
Okay, all right. But so often I get asked to speak for like 10 or 15 minutes, and 500 years of history or more is, tough to pack in there. So it's nice to have the amount of time and then also 3 nights so I can focus on different areas. Yeah. Hello, good to see you. Is Molly coming?
I have no idea. I am not my daughter's keeper.
There you go. And Nancy was the first one to sign on.
So glad they could make it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, fall winning sauce.
I haven't actually been looking at the people that came in except for.
So, highway yesterday, in Albany.
Yeah.
I need to get her transit information. I understand.
Oh, God. Say, hey, I just do when we're like a conference or a gathering or something like that, so it's when I identify others pride. Right, and so they can be any length, that this one is the right, Rochester, they're my brothers, moccasins, and I only wear them for special occasions. Yeah. They're full of blazers. Are you? I'm They're very comfortable, except for at my point in life, I need to support them. So. Yeah. Maybe someday I'll get a pair that is like inserts or something.
Okay. Around the park area.
Okay.
The last one.
It's actually.
Yeah.
Are you
streaming? Yes, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yes, we've got friends from Florida and all over the place.
Trying to get their attention. Okay.
They do not.
As a farm.
Oh, goodness.
That's not this lot.
Oh, hello. Hi.
Yes.
I just have to also.
Yes, and a lovely crowd. I love it that there's people here I know and there's people I've never met before, but now I know you like it. I Me too.
You got a great turnout.
Yay!
Now I'm wondering if we are gonna do
Well, we can see.
Leah, do you know how to turn the microphones on? I got the power on and then it didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Intra-housing.
Okay.
Go back to
Yeah, yeah,
very much around that mindset.
yeah.
I prefer to not use a microphone, but I want everyone to be able to hear me, so the silliest question of all, oh, I got a thumbs up in the back row. Like, if you can't hear me, raise your hand.
If we need it, there's the microphone.
All right.
If we need it.
And if I start to fade, wave or do something so that I pick back up again. A couple more folks coming in and then I'll get started. And you might have noticed this, you came in, but there was a table outside the door. There was a sign-up sheet if you were interested in Indigenous Peoples Day mailings. We also asked if you wanted to volunteer or be on the committee, but if you just want to get mailings from us so you know what's going on in the community, we'd be happy to add you. And of course, we're not going to sell your address and we don't send out a ton of stuff. But we do things throughout the year, more than just Indigenous Peoples Day, which is the second Monday in October. So feel free to sign that. And there's also information on the back table and outside for other things that are happening in the Indigenous community in the near future. And I'll talk more about that at the end so that you don't forget to take it with you. So if I forget to say that, remind me at the end. You're welcome to come in. There's a seat here and here and here. There's more seats. Oh, okay, awesome. Alrighty. Okay, well, it's our tradition, Haudenosaunee tradition, to say a thankfulness address every morning when we get up. And of course, that doesn't always happen. I try really hard personally. Sometimes I kind of do my thankfulness address on the way to work because I drive through Ellison Park, which is beautiful. And I'll say it there or, you know, along the lake or something. And I have the great honor of and joy of sometimes saying the Thanksgiving address at school with children of all ages. So that's really special. I teach at the Harley School. So I'm going to start off, even before I introduce myself, with our Thanksgiving address, because not only do we do it every morning, but we do it whenever we gather. And though you're not all Indigenous, Haudenosaunee Indigenous, I think the thankfulness address is a beautiful thing that we should all be thinking of more often. Because what it really does is it acknowledges the fact that we're on Mother Earth. And Mother Earth provides everything we need to sustain us every day. And we kind of take that for granted. We walk around not thinking about where our feet are. It's on Haudenosaunee territory, on Mother Earth, and that she's kind enough to give us everything we need. So we start out there and we thank Mother Earth for everything she gives us. And if we were doing a really short version, I suppose we could stop there, but we want to keep going. And we also are grateful for the good people in our life. Now, lately, I've been forgetting to say people a lot lately because there's so many that are ticking me off, but we gotta think positively and remember all the good people and the allies and our relatives and be grateful for the teachers and those that lead us in appropriate ways. And working our way up, we're of course grateful for all the plants, the little tiny plants up to the big, huge trees, the lungs of the planet, as well as of course the berries and the herbs and even the little mosses. And we always have to mention corn, beans, and squash, the three sisters. And soon the strawberries will be coming in June. And I can't in good conscience, mention the trees without mentioning the leader of the trees. Hello, without mentioning the leader of the trees, and the leader of the trees is the maple. And the reason we call the maple the leader of the trees is because when we come out of winter, where we've been eating certainly some game and food that, you know, animals that we've caught, we're eating all of last year's vegetables that we've dried. And so it's time for something fresh, but things aren't growing yet. But thankfully, the maples are kind enough and generous enough to just pour out their sap for us. And we actually drink the sap, especially pregnant women drink the sap full of nutrients and of course boiled down to syrup and sugar, which we all know. And you can thank Native Americans, Haudenosaunee for that. But we thank not only the maple tree, but also the squirrels, because they're the ones who gave us that idea. We saw them nibbling in the spring and drinking, and we knew something was up, something good was in there. So for all the plants and all the trees, we're grateful because they also give us the oxygen that we need to live. And we're grateful for all of our relatives that are finned and furried and four-legged, and those that are feathered and fly. We're grateful for all of them, and we consider all living things to be our relatives. And working our way up, we're grateful for, of course, the sun, which warms us and keeps us, gives us our days, and also the moon, which inspires us and gives us our months. And I forgot the insects. We're grateful for the insects. That's not always in there, but I think that's really important, especially because of the pollinators. We wouldn't have most of the food we eat without bees and pollinators. And I'm not talking about the European honeybee, which is kind of an invasive colonizer, but I do like honey. And so we're grateful for the sun, for warming us and for allowing those plants to do photosynthesis. And I'm grateful for the moon. We call her Grandmother Moon. And then going up even higher, oh, I forgot the wind, which, I mean, today, how could I forget the wind? The wind and the thunderers. And then going up even further, we're grateful for the stars. Because the stars are absolutely beautiful and so inspirational. And we consider the stars to be our ancestors. Some will tell you that the stars are the footprints of our ancestors that have gone before us, and other people say that the stars themselves are our ancestors. But either way, it's a lovely thought when you're missing your ancestors or you need inspiration or direction to go out at night and look at the sky. And of course, stars do truly give us direction. Before we all had GPS on our phone and compasses before that, everyone around the world looked at the stars for direction and were able to navigate with them. So the stars are really important. And that's where we're going to kind of start our story today, as you may have seen in the promotional material that I was going to be talking about Skywoman. So we're gonna start up there and work our way down. But first, I should introduce myself. Nyawe Eskino, Nigoso, Gasointa, Tonawanda, Onondowaga, Nikwa. So what I said is, I'm thankful that you are all well. I gave you the name that I got from the Longhouse, traditional name. And I'm from the Tonawanda Reservation, and I'm Onondowaga, which you know better as Seneca. But Onondowaga is our name. Seneca was just the name that was given to us. And I am Bear Clan. And I'm so happy to be with you tonight. And I'm so grateful that you all turned out. And you folks as well that are on the screen there. Well, thank you. And I forgot to mention too, I did mention the strawberries, but we call them the leader of the plants or the fruits because they're the first ones to give us berries in the springtime. So we love our strawberries. And the deer are the leader of the animals because they provide the most food for the Haudenosaunee people. Now out west, that would probably be the bison, but around here, it was predominantly the deer because not only did we get a lot of food from the deer, but also like everything else we need, we used every part of it, part of the deer, so. So you can tell by the fact that we're supposed to start our day and we're supposed to start every gathering with the thankfulness address. And by the way, that was a really short version. It was a very short version. When we do a lengthy version, we'll actually list instead of the birds, we'll say the chickadees, the blue jays, the nuthatches, and list. And so as a school teacher, I think of it as sort of taking attendance. And I'm sorry to tell you, but the thankfulness address has gotten shorter when it's done traditionally the whole thing, because there are less species now than there were. So gratitude is our highest tenet for the Haudenosaunee. And the thankfulness address is so important because it emphasizes and embodies the fact that all of nature is important, all of nature is equal, and all of nature are our relatives. In fact, that includes the rocks. We consider the rocks to be our grandfathers, and that's because they have the oldest stories. And there isn't a geologist that will argue with that. So, and what I love about the thankfulness address is that if you take the time to do it, every day you say, oh my gosh, I have a lot. I have a lot to be grateful for. This is a beautiful earth. What more do I need, really? And so it gives you that fullness, and then you want less, and that's good for you, and that's good for the planet. I told you who I was, and my name is Trish Corcoran. Who I'm not. I'm not a faith keeper. I'm not a clan mother. I'm just me. I'm just me and sharing what I know. I am chairperson of Indigenous Peoples Day, and we would like you all to come out for that. And we have some committee members here, and that's awesome, and some committee members up there. Yeah, so, and I'm happy to, at the end, answer any questions, but I just want you to know that I'm not, you know, someone who's like representing my nation or anything like that. And in terms of vocabulary, because a lot of people kind of get nervous about saying the wrong thing or ask, well, what should I call you, or what should I say or not say, kind of thing. So you may hear me in the course of the 3 weeks, if you come all the time, not necessarily so much tonight, but if I'm talking about historically, you might hear me say the word Indian. I don't think you should say the word Indian. We're not from India, obviously. Someone was greatly confused, but I don't even use his name anymore. But I will say the word historically, because that's what we were referred to. And that's what's in the documents and treaties and things like that. So I do use the word. I don't think you should. Native American is fine. Indigenous person. What we really prefer is to be called like from the nation that we're from, but you might not necessarily know that. So any questions before I go on? Okay. All righty. So I'm going to tell you the creation story, my version, not that I came up with, the version that I was told growing up. And so thus it's my favorite. There are a lot of versions. And when I get to the end, I can tell you some of the disparities that you'll hear other things. So if you've heard the creation story, and as I'm telling you my version, you're like, oh, no, that's not what I heard. Oh, no. Chill. Okay, and there are a lot of versions. First of all, in the Haudenosaunee, there's 6 nations, and we were spread out over great territory. And then beyond that, in the whole Great Lakes Basin, the Anishinaabe have the same creation story as us, and theirs is even more, a little different, but pretty much the same thing. So I'll be happy to go over some of the discrepancies and differences at the end, but right now I just want you to enjoy the story because it's one of my favorites. And I think that it has great importance, not only for the Haudenosaunee people, but for anybody living on this land, because it's the story of how Turtle Island came to be. And you'll find out why it's called Turtle Island. The Haudenosaunee believed that a long, long time ago, I mean, a long time ago, where we are now on Mother Earth was all water. It was water world. There were water animals, but it was all water. And then up above the clouds was a place called Skyworld. And in Skyworld was much like our world with trees and longhouses and people and plants. But of course, it didn't have all the contemporary things that are out there today, like telephone poles and stuff like that. And it had tremendous diversity. There were more animals and there were more types of birds and there were more plants and the trees were much bigger and it was a beautiful place. There was one tree that was very unique and different from all the other trees in Skyworld, and that was the celestial tree. And the celestial tree was unique in a couple of ways. It was unique because it is said to have given off a variety of fruit. So one tree, you could go and get a variety of fruit. How lovely is that? And in addition to that, it gave off light. Now, some people will tell you that the whole tree glowed, and others will say that it had big white blossoms, and the blossoms shined, and that's what gave off the light. But it was a special tree, and it was a beautiful tree, and it meant a lot to the people of Skyworld. In Skyworld, there was a woman who was pregnant, and her husband was pretty good about getting her things that she wanted to eat if she had cravings. I mean, he was good to her. But one day she asked for the roots of the celestial tree, and he said no. So the next day she asked for the roots of the celestial tree, and he said no. And so the third day when she asked for the roots of the celestial tree, he said, no, I'm not going to harm the tree. I will not get you the roots of the tree. So that night when everyone was asleep in the longhouse, she went out with her digging stick and she dug and she dug and she dug. And if any of you have ever dug around the base of a large tree, the roots are equally large. Obviously they have to be to hold up the tree. They were huge. And so she dug and dug and dug and dug because even though she was finding roots, yes, she could not do anything with them. They were too big. Until finally she got the hole really, really deep. And way down in the bottom of the hole, she saw some little tendrils coming off of one of those big roots. And so she thought, well, I think I can break one of those. Well, tree roots are really tough, but anyway, she reached way down into the hole, reached way down, and she got a hold of that little tendril and she pulled and she pulled and she pulled herself right into the hole. And instead of landing in a clump in the bottom of that hole, she broke through Skyworld and she started plummeting towards Waterworld. And when she broke through Skyworld, the hole that she made allowed light from the celestial tree to shine through. And so all the animals down in Waterworld looked up when they saw that shaft of light coming down, like, what is that? And then they saw a speck, a tiny little speck, and they were curious about the speck, so they watched it, and of course it got bigger and bigger, and then finally they could discern that it was a person. I don't know if they knew that it was a person because they've never seen a person before, but they realized that this being was going to get hurt, not die, if they hit the water. And so immediately the swans and the geese flew up to meet her, and they caught her on their back. In their soft, warm feathers, she was on their back, and they lowered her down towards Waterworld. I love that Robin Wall Kimmerer says she pirouetted like a maple seed in the autumn breeze. I love that. And so they lowered her down, but of course this was all water, so there was no place to put her. And so big old turtle came up out of the ocean and said, "You can put her on my back." And so they lowered her down, and there was Skywoman on Turtle's back. And she looked around and they looked at her. I'm sure it was a curious moment for all of them. And they realized right away that she had in her hand some roots. And they thought, well, if she can plant those roots, maybe she'll have some food. So we need to get her some soil, some mud. And so it was first the big old beaver, which beavers are really strong swimmers, as you know, they can stay underwater a long time. Beaver said, "I'll go," and Beaver immediately dove down underwater and was gone a really long time to get soil for Skywoman. Well, Beaver eventually came back empty-handed. It was too deep, couldn't get the soil. And so then Loon said, "Well, I'll go." And if any of you have had the pleasure of seeing a beautiful loon over there on the lake, and then they dive down and they disappear, and you're looking and they never come up, but they come up way over here. They've got tremendous capacity for swimming and being underwater. So the loon went down, and they were sure that the loon would come up with some soil. But the loon was down longer than Beaver, but when the loon came up, no soil. So several animals tried and failed, and then finally it was the little muskrat that said, "I'll go." And I'm sorry to tell you, but some of the animals kind of giggled at Muskrat because they thought, well, he's so little, Beaver didn't do it and Loon didn't do it, but Muskrat went. He was undeterred, down he went, and he was gone the longest of all of them. He was gone so long that all the animals started worrying, and some of the animals that had giggled and laughed at him felt pretty bad and they were worried. And then finally some little bubbles started to come up to the surface, and they all got excited and they figured that must be Muskrat. And indeed it was. Muskrat resurfaced. And in Muskrat's little paw was soil. And so they gave that to Skywoman, and she put it on the turtle's back and she planted the roots, and she immediately stood up and started doing the women's shuffle dance in thanks and gratitude for the birds that caught her, for the turtle that supported her, and for all the animals that tried to get her soil, but most especially Muskrat. Because not only did Muskrat succeed, but Muskrat died. His little lungs burst, and so he gave his life for Skywoman. So as she sang and danced around and around on Turtle's back, the soil spread out, and the turtle grew and grew bigger and bigger until it's what you know is North America today. And that's why we call her Turtle Island. So that's the story of Skywoman. Now what's neat about that is the Anishinaabe also have that story. So all of us in the Great Lakes Basin, but now across what is now called the United States, across Turtle Island, indigenous people, Navajo or Dene, I should say, Dene and Californian indigenous people, like everybody's referring to North America as Turtle Island, even though they have their own creation stories and they're very different from ours, obviously being like in a desert or California, but they still refer to this place as Turtle Island. So I think that's pretty cool. Alrighty. So I'm a school teacher, so I gotta ask you some questions. What were the values or lessons that you learned from that Skywoman story?
I was immediately struck by the caring that the community cared about a total stranger. And everybody contributed to her well-being.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, wonderful. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
She's a heroine instead of a hero.
Ah, yes, very good. Yep, that is true. Yes, we're a matrilineal society. Yes.
Digging too deep.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's you shouldn't do that. Is there in indigenous? You really don't disturb the land, you don't?
Well, yeah, and later on I'll be talking about that you only take what you need. And that's not what our society as a whole does at all. I mean, to fill the shelves at Walmart and Target, you gotta have a lot of stuff. And then that means a lot of oil to make all that plastic stuff. And so, I mean, from space now, there's scars and holes and horrendous things on Mother Earth that look ugly when we're down here. But if you can see them from space, that's pretty excessive. That's, taking way too much. Yes.
Nancy Krause is trying.
I pressed the wrong button. Sorry. I was just gonna say I always like the muskrat persistence and getting what needed to be done and the sacrifice from the muskrat.
Yes, absolutely. And also that the muskrat's a little guy.
Yeah.
Got the job done. That when I tell this story to children, they always really like that because it's the tiniest one that got the job done. Thank you, Nancy. Anybody else out there?
Hi, hi, my name is Doug. I got the sense everything is connected. So, sky, earth, water, the depths, everything's connected.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yes. Anyone else in here? Yes.
I was struck by the power of Skywoman's gratitude that if she didn't do all the dancing, I mean, maybe Turtle Island would be a lot smaller with just one tree growing.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Any others? Yes.
She also had a generous husband, right? He took good care of her.
Mm-hmm. Yep, well, in my story. Yeah, there's another one out there. Yes.
So her husband showed respect for the tree. You can't say that for her so much, but he did respect the sacred tree.
Right. Yep. Again, in my story, you're right. Yep. Yeah. And I say my story because it's the version that I grew up with. I did not make it or change it. Yes. So acceptance, welcoming, non-judgmental. I mean, the animals could have said, "What the heck is that?" and let her splat, and they didn't. Kindness, caring, generosity. Look at the muskrat gave his life. And of course, gratitude and reciprocity. Yeah, so there's a lot in that little story. And I think, when you live in a place, you should know the origin stories of that place. And what's interesting about that too is that, you'll hear people call this a myth or a legend. I prefer to call it a story because stories can be true, stories can be fictional, they can also be somewhere in between. And what I think is really interesting is that Western science says, yes, this was all water once before Pangea, and way back when this was all water. Okay. And then, yes, we are made of stardust.
Yes.
We come from stars. So, was Skywoman a star? I don't know, maybe. I like thinking that I'm made of stardust. Yes.
Yeah, there's also, I heard this story before, but I still got a little worried when you started telling it. forgetting that I knew the ending, that she was gonna be punished for being adventurous and being bold. Because so many stories, women are punished for being adventurous and being bold. And so I caught myself being like worried about that with the Adam and Eve story and the interpretations there. So it's just so refreshing that that is not the case.
Yeah, she was not banished from the garden. She made the garden and tended it.
I assume Skywoman is the originator of the human race. She came pregnant. And so another moral is we don't exist without all the animals.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Are there more stories about her?
Well, the story goes a little bit further, yeah. And I usually don't go there with children. Not that there's anything horrible about it, it's just they ask too many questions. But so some of the discrepancies or variations that you will hear is actually that she was pushed into the hole. Some say by her father, the chief, some say by her husband. Some say the reason she was pushed into the hole was because they had dreamed that that's what they were supposed to do, because we put a lot of weight into our dreams, and they had dreamed that she was to go to another place. I've heard women say, maybe she jumped. She took things into her own hands and she jumped. So there's that. And I've also heard that the tree was uprooted, that the tree was uprooted by her husband, or the tree was uprooted by her father, the chief. And that was, again, because of a dream that, something that needed to be done. What are some of the other discrepancies? Yes.
Do you think she was human?
She was human as far as I know. I mean, it's funny that you should ask that. As a child, I just always assumed she was 2 arms, 2 legs, human. Never thought of that. I just made that assumption all my life. Skywoman. I assumed she was, yeah, but she could have been anything, I suppose, really.
What happened to Skyworld?
Skyworld?
I mean, she made
this world down here. I don't know if it continued to exist, it doesn't seem like it's still up there, like our stories don't have it still up there that I'm aware of, but I don't know what happened to Skyworld. Yes.
Do they ever say that she wanted the roots of this tree, which is sacrilegious, from a dream, that she had a dream?
That I've never heard, but she could have had a dream. Yeah, but she had cravings for the roots. I don't know if she was just gonna nibble on them or make tea or what. And of course, when I tell this story, a lot of children go, "Ooh, roots," and I'm like, have you ever eaten a carrot? And, we eat a lot of roots, and a lot of our herbs come from roots and things like that. So, and I don't think she ever meant to harm the tree. She just wanted a little bit for herself. She didn't want a lot, and yeah, so.
So it wasn't a bad thing in Skyworld that she wanted that. That was that judgmental kind of stuff.
I've never heard that it was a bad thing. Her husband didn't want to dig it up for her because it was such a special tree. I mean, think about it. It's one of a kind. He didn't want to damage it. And so I think it's good that he honored the tree, and I understand that she had a need. She felt she needed those minerals or whatever that tree had for her. So anyway, or she had nothing to do with the hole and she was pushed in. So there's the story of Skywoman. But I'm glad my mother told me the one where she didn't get pushed, because I think I would have had nightmares. But anyway, so I absolutely love, probably in this crowd, we have a bunch of people that have read Reading Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, probably more than once. You can see I've got a lot of bookmarks in that. but I just want to read you a little bit from there because I think she just like says it so well. She talks about her ecology class, and she had them take a survey, and she asked about negative interactions between humans and the environment. And nearly every one of the 200 students said confidently that humans and nature are a bad mix, which is pretty funny because we are nature, okay? We are nature. These were third-year students who had selected a career in environmental protection, so their response was, in a way, not very surprising. They were well-schooled in the mechanics of climate change, toxins in the land and water, and the crisis of habitat loss. Later in the survey, they were asked to rate their knowledge of positive interactions between people and the land, and the median response was none. She was stunned. How is it possible that they've, been on the planet 20 years or more and are educated, and yet they couldn't think of anything positive? Perhaps it was the negative examples that they see every day, factory farms, suburban sprawl, brownfields. As the land becomes impoverished, so too does the scope of their vision. When we talked about this after class, I realized that they could not even imagine what beneficial relations between their species and others might look like. How can we begin to move toward ecological and cultural sustainability if we cannot even imagine what the path feels like? If we can't imagine the generosity of geese, these students were not raised on the story of Skywoman. So that's why I think Skywoman is so important. So on one side of the world were people whose relationship with the living world was shaped by Skywoman, who created a garden for the well-being of all. And on the other side was another woman with a garden and a tree. And for tasting its fruit, she was banished from the garden, and the gates clanged shut behind her. That mother of men was made to wander in the wilderness and earn her bread by the sweat of her brow, not by filling her mouth with the sweet, juicy fruits that bend the branches low. In order to eat, she was instructed to subdue the wilderness into which she was cast. So, yeah, I prefer Skywoman. So. And let's see. And one more thing about Skywoman, as we consider these instructions, it's also good to recall when Skywoman arrived here, she did not come alone. So I've got a little bit more to tell you. She was pregnant, and knowing that her grandchildren would inherit the world she left behind, she did not work for flourishing in her time only. It was through her actions of reciprocity, the give and take with the land, that the original immigrant became indigenous. For all of us, becoming indigenous to a place means living as if your children's future mattered, to take care of the land as if our lives, both material and spiritual, depended on it, which it does. So, and later on in the book, she's talking about, different perspectives in terms of land and food and resources, if you will. And there were two really good examples, and it was interesting that she chose them from like different time periods, and they were both about rice, collecting rice. And it was from, I can't remember whether it was French, English, Dutch, but it was from some old journals of colonizers that had come over. And they were talking about all the rice that grew around the Great Lakes, and that the indigenous people harvested it. And they wrote in their journals like how ridiculous it was that they wasted so much, that they didn't harvest all of it, that they left a lot out there and wasted it. And then she knew of a friend who went ricing with some native people in contemporary times, and they went out in the canoe and they bend it over and they hit it with a stick and they go along and as they hit it with a stick into the canoe, some falls into the water, some stays on the plant, and the friend that had accompanied them for the first time and had a wonderful experience, but said, you know, I can design something for you that like projects off the canoe this way and this way. And then when that rice like comes off, instead of landing in the water, you get it all in the canoe and you don't waste any of it, because a lot of it was wasted. Well, of course, none of that rice long time ago or the contemporary rice was wasted, because there's birds that love rice. And you can't have rice next year if you don't plant rice this year. So it's silly to think of it as waste, but the society we're in right now is kind of like, you know, just take everything. And that's a shame. So Indigenous people have origin stories, like you just heard one of them, and all Indigenous people have different origin stories. But settlers really have colonizer myths. And if you think about the history that you learned in school, I mean, I wasn't with you, so I don't know what you learned, but I'm gonna tell you that I'm pretty darn sure that there was a lack of truth in it. That there was a lot that was missing, that wasn't told to you, that should have been. And then there's some stuff that was told to you that was just dead wrong, okay? And it's interesting that people will call Skywoman a myth or a legend and then put in a history book this fact, which is not a fact at all. And it's a myth, and there's a lot of colonizer myths out there. Thanksgiving comes to mind, which has nothing to do with the Thanksgiving address, not even remotely. It's a shame. And then some people believe that if something's like written down and printed in a book, then it's fact. And right now we're living in a time where we know that not everything that's printed is fact. Not everything that's said is fact. But in terms of history and school and that, and this is before this administration came in, 27 states in the United States had no Native American or Indigenous curriculum, none. So that's more than half. 27 states had nothing. And of the states that did, most of them didn't have a lot. New York does a better job than most states. California actually does a pretty good job. Minnesota, some parts of it does. But most of the states just have a little bit in 4th grade. I call it Longhouses, Lacrosse, and the Three Sisters, because that's pretty much what they cover in most schools, but some do a better job. And we're very fortunate to have Onondowaga here, right down the road in Victor. Onondowaga is a fabulous place to go visit if you haven't. And if you go there from May to October, you get to go in the Longhouse, which I think is so special. I love just going and sitting in there and smelling it. It's wonderful. But anyway, so a little bit in 4th grade, and then in 7th or 8th grade, a little bit of Trail of Tears. And the way the Trail of Tears is usually taught is like that it's one trail, a few tears. I mean, but it was like so many nations over years. And it's just horrendous, the number of people who died and what they went through, and that it's, you know, such a blip in history. And really, if you think about it, if you were to go abroad and you were in school and you were to go abroad to study, what would you do before you went abroad? Research, yes, research. Learn. What would you learn before you went abroad? Language, culture, customs, manners. Manners. What was that?
I said we would only hope.
Politics, history, art. You would learn a lot, wouldn't you? You would study up on France or Spain or wherever it was you were going. And yes, at least cursory, the very basics of language. And yet, right here on Turtle Island, it's swept under the rug. Indigenous culture, history, politics, of which the United States Constitution is based upon our great law of peace, which is next week. So I'm not going to go down that path, but you got to come back to learn more about it. But there's so much other than just the land, which is a big thing that you've received from us, and so much should be, and I say received, like we gave it, we actually were generous in the beginning, but then a lot was just taken and stolen. But there's so much to learn, and yet it's not taught in schools. And when it is taught in schools, the other thing that's really important to know is that, you know, they usually go just barely into the 1800s and stop. And so that is why in an extensive 2014 study of high school students, high school graduates, 87% thought that we were all extinct. That all Native Americans were extinct. 87% of high school graduates. Now that was 2014, so it was before Standing Rock. I certainly hope that things have improved a little bit since then in that regard, but you can see that our education is not doing a very good job. And then you think that those high school students grow up and get jobs that can affect us. They can be our doctors, our lawyers, they can be our judges, police. And if they don't know anything about us, or they have stereotypical images, it's not good. I think I went off course. I didn't finish Skywoman. So as you know, she was pregnant, and so she did have her baby, and her baby was a daughter, and they had a happy life, and you know, they had their lovely garden, and then one day her daughter became pregnant, and there's a variety of ways that people will say. There's a film at Onondowaga which attributes it to Turtle Man, which kind of makes sense since they're on a turtle. The West Wind is another one, and then also a lacrosse player, but I don't know where he came from. But I hope he was cute. But she did get pregnant, and she had twins, and when it was time to give birth, the first twin was born the normal way, and his name was Sapling, and then the other twin, which apparently they had an argument before they came out, the other twin chose to come out her armpit and thus killed her. So Skywoman's daughter died, and both boys lived, and the grandmother took care of them, but she was upset, obviously, that her daughter died, and she apparently asked them, you know, who did this, and Flint, the one who did it, pointed to his brother. And so she ignored the brother, and she raised Flint, and then Sapling had special powers, and he went on to populate Turtle Island. Like, he was able to actually create things. He had special powers, and so he created beautiful streams so that it was easy for you to make a canoe and get from place to place. And then Flint was jealous, so he made rapids so that your canoe could get crashed up into things. And Sapling made a rose because it was beautiful, but Flint added thorns. And Sapling made fish so you could easily catch some yummy things in the water, but Flint added bones so that you had to fillet it and be careful that you didn't choke on a fish bone, and on it went. And the two were always at swords points. And in the end, they had a competition, and some will tell you that the competition was a game, like a dice game, and others will tell you that they had fisticuffs, that they went at it with each other. In the end, sapling won, and so I guess that's a good thing. But and I was told, when I was told that story when I was little, to be very careful and not say that like one was good and one was bad. That was not the case. It was that they were different, and they each had their own strengths and weaknesses, I guess. But okay. So we are from this land and not conquering or coming to it, and you know, in domination. And so by the way, are you? I mean, you're not all Haudenosaunee. I do have some native friends here, but you're indigenous from somewhere. And so this colonization process has been going on a long time, not just to us, and all around the world. And so that people from all around the world used to look at the stars and used to garden and grow plants and used to be more in touch with nature wherever they were. But people in power like to have more power, and so they kind of push their way on you folks from wherever, and then things start to go this way of, you know, capitalization. And a good example of that is I'm also Irish, and for the longest time I thought of my like Irish ancestry as Catholic, Irish Catholic. But then I started diving into it and researching that part of me. Come to find out, the Celtic side is very much like Haudenosaunee. I mean, like little people and the stars and trees were super important, and just all, you know, a lot of the same stuff. And I contend that all of us from everywhere were like that at some point or another, but so many people are so far removed from that it's totally cool for them to move to that house over there because it's got a bigger swimming pool, or to move over there way across the country because they got better weather or whatever. Well, I'm not going anywhere because this is where I'm from. I couldn't fathom travel. Yeah, I'd be happy to travel, but I can't imagine living anywhere else. This is my home. And so I think people really have to get in touch with their roots and the land that they're on. And so that's not to say that you have to go back to Ireland or Russia or wherever, but, you know, be in touch with the land that you're on. I think that's really important for you and your health, but I also think it's important for everyone's health. So, the American dream. I think you know where I'm going with this. The American dream is really Indigenous elimination, and also for a lot of our non-human relatives. I mean, there have been so many extinctions. It's devastating. It's based upon human and non-human hierarchy, so that non-humans are lesser life forms. And they're not, but I'm just saying what the American dream kind of looks like. You know, people are up here, everything else is down here. Now, we, the Haudenosaunee, not only do we believe that everybody's our relative, but also that the plants have been around the longest. And so we have the most to learn from them. That's turning things on its head. Okay. And so in addition to the lesser life forms, unfortunately, and I'm not saying this because I believe it, I'm just saying it because it's true in our history, is that Indigenous people and African Americans or Africans or Black people were not considered humans. We were not considered humans. I mean, it's like, it's written down. It's not just, oh, that's my opinion or that's somebody's opinion. That is written down. And so that did not bode well for any of us. And the American dream is killing planet Earth. And economically and resource-wise, it is unsustainable. Which is also why I brought along another one of Robin Wall Kimmerer's books, The Service Berry. If you haven't read this book, you have to. You can read it in an afternoon. And it's got beautiful illustrations. And it's just absolutely lovely. Because what it is it talks about economics. Mind-boggling. Economics. But it talks about gifting and how, like, not everything in life has to be based on monetary. And that really, the growth, like, you know, building homes and this and that, it's truly unsustainable. We have to turn things around. We have to look at things differently. And this book does a beautiful job of stating it, far better than I could. And the hierarchy is not just based on race, but of course it's based on gender and ableness and age. And okay, for the white guys in the room, I'm not picking on you. You did it to yourselves in the Constitution. It was white landowning men, okay? So I'm not picking on you, I'm just stating a fact that it was the white men who were at the top making the decisions and then saying that the Constitution applied only to them, white landowning men. So that was about 6% of the population at the time, which is crazy that you eliminated all these other people, okay? And I know you in the room did not do it, okay? So I'm not pointing a finger, but just, and I don't want you to think I'm picking on you, just, you guys said it yourself. They did, not you, your forefathers. So white men have always had ownership and domination over land, women, children, animals, and some people that they didn't consider people. And so if you think about that, I mean, if you really think about that, if a man says this land is mine, I like this chunk of land, and puts a fence around it, as they often did, everything within that fence was now his, and he could do with as he wished, literally. So if he had animals, he could kill them, or not. He could have them mate, or not. And his children were chattel, and his wife was chattel. That was not a healthy system. But, and we've come a long way, but there's still a long way to go. And then sadly, often the church and the state and even science has backed them up. And I'm a person who believes in science. I believe in science. But there's some really bad science out there. And there has been horrendous science in the past. And so not only did they steal our land, but they eliminated our set of values and our stewardship. And instead of learning from us, they tried to erase us. Tried. Genocide, assimilation, stealing our children, blood quantum. Here's an interesting thing. So there's pedigree cards for dogs and racehorses and Native Americans. Blood quantum. You have to be a certain blood quantum in order to be this, or to own this land, or to be part of this group or whatever. And so what's really interesting about that is you've probably heard of the 1 drop of blood rule when it comes to Black people. So if a person somehow has 1 drop of Black blood, of which you can't tell the difference between blood, scientifically, it cannot be done, that person's Black. And so therefore they can't drink out of that fountain, or they have to do what you say over here or whatever. And so having more Black people was a good thing financially, so you had more people to work for you or whatever. But the Indians, they were trying to get rid of them, and so they had this blood quantum so that with intermarriage, it kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller, hoping to eliminate us. And so that still exists today. And it's something that, one of the many things that I would like to eliminate. It's silly, and it's not scientific. I mean, it's a fraction on paper. You know, you can't tell anyone in terms of indigeneity through their genetics or their blood. So, so invisibility and making myths and, you know, fictitious stories about us and rewriting history was a way, invisibility was huge, was a way to make people more comfortable with being on stolen land and the things that were done. Because if you don't know it happened or you don't know we exist, look at that 87% of high school graduates. There's nothing to feel bad about. And that happened so long ago. And so there's no reparations or anything that need to be done because we're all gone. Well, we're not, okay? So I always tell people to, you know, think about land back. And land back, by the way, don't get nervous. We're not coming for your land. It's been done to us so many times before that we don't do that. But if you've got an extra home or piece of land or a chunk of land you're not using, or you don't have any, you know, relatives that are coming up, think about donating some land back to the indigenous people from that area. People have done it in big parcels and small parcels. And like a really good example is outside of Syracuse, there's a family that had a little cabin. I don't know if they lived in the cabin year round or whether they just went there, you know, to relax and hang out, but it had a beautiful stream that flowed by it. And a friend of mine from Onondowaga, his father used to take him fishing there when he was a little boy. And so one day, he was fishing someplace in that vicinity and he wasn't having any luck. And so he remembered this place and he decided to go over there. And the folks were home, and so he knocked on the door and he introduced himself and he said, "I used to fish here when I was little. Do you mind if I throw my line in?" And they're like, "No, cool, go ahead." And he did, and he caught some fish and he, you know, went and thanked them and said, "Do you mind if I take these with me?" And he said, and by the way, he fishes for the nation. When he fishes, he brings his fish back and he gives it to the elders and people that need it. So they said, "No, go ahead." And so he took the fish and they said, "Come back anytime." And so he did. He would go back there and he would fish and they would visit and he'd take his fish home. And so they didn't have any children or anyone to give their land to. And so they said to him one time, you know, "We're getting up there. Could we give our land to the nation and then you could continue to fish here?" And he said, "Yeah." And so that chunk of land got turned over to the Onondaga Nation. And so he continues to fish there. And of course, they lived there as long as they wanted to. But then when they were done with the land, it went back to the Onondaga. And then 70 to 80% of indigenous people alive today live in cities as opposed to on territory. And now there's this group of women that are like all over the Northeast kind of, I mean, like, okay, COVID was a terrible thing, but we learned to get more creative. And so this group of women from like Atlanta and here and there, they like got together and they have an organization that is reaching out to churches, because a lot of churches, they're dwindling, people aren't going, and now they've got this chunk of land and they're turning churches over to indigenous groups. And then the indigenous people in that city or town have a place where they can meet and have like a cultural center or a community place. Pretty cool. So there's all kinds of ways to get creative and to give back and to be an ally. And yeah, so are there any questions?
Yes.
Since you said the Celtic ancient ways were sort of like indigenous, not to go by blood count, but you could be telling us Celtic stories.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What's the difference? Why are you?
Oh, why am I
indigenous?
Because I know way more about my indigenous side than I do my Celtic or my German side. I know nothing about my German side. and only a little bit about the Irish. So number one, it's where my knowledge base is. And why is that? That's because my mom always, so I grew up in the Rochester area, actually Ontario, and but my mom grew up until she was about 5 years old on the Tonawanda Reserve. And the reason they moved off the reserve when my mother was 5, she was the eldest in the family, was so that the children didn't get taken for boarding school. So it was a defensive move. I think my grandmother would have loved to have stayed on Tonawanda, but she went to 3 boarding schools, and she said her children would never go to a boarding school. So when my mother got to the age where they used to take children, she moved to Rochester and she started cleaning houses. So my grandmother cleaned houses in Rochester, and my mother and her brothers and sisters graduated from East High School. But I grew up going back to Tonawanda a lot, like a ton, like in those years when you're littler, it was like almost every Sunday night dinner kind of thing was at Auntie's house or whatever. And then for ceremonies, we always went back for ceremonies. So even though I was raised Catholic because my father preferred that, but he was totally cool about the other side, I was also raised up in the Longhouse, of which I am proud of and cherish. Especially because all the people that I listened to that spoke our language are all gone. I mean, we do still have language speakers, but the ones that I grew up with. And a friend just gave me a book as a gift the other day, and it's a beautiful book. She bought it in Niagara Falls, and I opened it up, and it's a lot about Canadian stuff, which is cool because I need to learn more about that. Because we have no border, but of course that border really is there, so it makes a difference. But anyway, I'm leafing through this book, and I saw Corbett Sundown, my chief that I grew up with. There were some really nice pictures of him in there, and that just made my heart so glad. That was really cool, and I told her about it, and she was thrilled because of course she didn't know that when she bought the book. But anyway, so I grew up spending a lot of time on Tonawanda, and so I know so much about that side of my family. And my mother was an educator, and my mother talked to scout troops and schools and churches and things. And she always, of course, dragged me along with her because she was mom, so I couldn't be left home alone, so I had to go with her. And then she kind of brought me into it, so I started speaking at a pretty young age, and telling our stories and things like that. So that's why the native side versus the other, it's knowledge and how I was brought up, but also because it needs more advocacy than the other two by a long shot. Especially now, I realize there's just like so many levels and layers that need advocacy. So yeah, and that's what I teach at the Harley School. I teach Indigenous and Environmental Studies. So there is one school that's getting a lot of information. Any other questions? Carmel?
You spoke about going back to ceremonies. At some time, will you talk to us about the Native American ceremonies?
Probably not, because that's something we like. It's special, and I mean, I could kind of give you a cursory overview, but I wouldn't talk about the particulars. Yeah, but thank you for asking.
You said the American dream is really indigenous elimination. And I'm embarrassed to say one of my grandkids just interviewed me last week about what I thought was the American dream. That was way off. After he left, I did pick a community, but he had taped it and videoed it, and so we really couldn't even change it. But what was your second sentence? It was so powerful, like that one was very powerful about indigenous elimination. You can,
and also for our non-human relatives, so not just indigenous, but non-human relatives, all the extinctions. And then it's based upon a human and a non-human hierarchy. So non-humans are lesser life forms, and that included natives and Black people, because we weren't considered human beings for a long, long time. And then I went on to say the American dream is killing planet Earth, and that it's, you know, the economics are unsustainable. Did I give you what you wanted?
thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Oh, do the nations get together? I know they get together here in the Northeast. What about the West? Do they come together at all as one people?
Well, we're very separate, different people. So one of the things that I don't have to teach so much anymore is I used to have to teach that there is no American Indian or Native American like one, because there's so many different languages and cultures and histories and everything. But yet we also have a tremendous amount in common, and not just how we've been treated by the United States government, but also we have a tremendous amount in common as much as we have differences. And so, yeah, we love to get together. And what's really cool about being Indigenous is we're only like 2% of the population. That's not cool. And when you consider that, you know, and there's a myth right there that the colonists came over and this place was empty and it was just all trees and there was a lot of animals. No, we were here and there was a lot of us, and we had cities and everything. I mean, like Cahokia, which is near St. Louis, was bigger than London. We had mounds that were higher than the pyramids. I mean, there was a lot going on over here, and a lot that's been bulldozed and pushed by the wayside that you don't know about. So I could go on all night, but there's now, we're only about 2% of the population, but we love to get together, and we do. Out west in Oklahoma and some places, there's really big powwows, and if it's a powwow, you're generally invited. Just don't get up and dance unless you're invited, because it's our time to dance, but they're fun to go to. And I'm really proud to say that Indigenous Peoples Day Committee, which was formed 4 years ago here in Rochester when we got the legislation through, yay, to eliminate that other day. We have formed a day that didn't exist. We give it as a gift to the city of Rochester. It's all free. And we have dancing and crafts and music and demonstrations and education. And it's a day-long event. And where was I going with that? I was gonna say something. And we have people come from all over New York State and Canada to Indigenous Peoples Day who are Indigenous. So, you know, we have Tuscaroras coming in from Niagara Falls and Mohawks from Akwesasne and people from Six Nations Canada. And so we pull, we're not an official powwow, but we pull from all over, and we do love to get together. And the other thing that's really cool about being Native is that we always know somebody. Like I can go out to Dene land and way out west, and like I woke up, we were out there for Indian days, and my mother was gone, and she left me a note that she was at the nearest coffee shop. So I go down to the coffee shop. She's sitting at this counter with all these natives, and they're laughing and talking, and so-and-so knows so-and-so, and this one, and like there's a camaraderie, and but there's always like, we know somebody. Like I ran into my cousin because she volunteered for Indigenous Peoples Day. We're not sure how we're related, but we're related. And so yes, get together and we love it, and we usually always find somebody we know. Yes.
Do you have any holiday that you can describe to us?
I wouldn't call it a holiday, but we do have ceremonies, and all the ceremonies are in regard to nature. And some of them are set according to the moons and stars in terms of like their actual start date and end date and things like that. But like we have a maple syrup ceremony when the maple sap is flowing, to say that we're grateful for that maple sap. And we have a strawberry ceremony when the strawberries come in, and we make huge vats of strawberry juice and drink it, and we're grateful for the strawberries. So everything that we do is seasonal. And then of course the three sisters when we plant them and when they come in. And so all of our ceremonies are based very much on like what's happening, what's coming out of the earth, what's, you know. So those indeed, to answer your question, Carmel, those are our ceremonies. Is they're all earth-based, they're all plant-based, they're what's happening with the season. Yeah. Yes.
You had mentioned a moment ago about your cousin that was on the. Now, in popular culture, like reservation dogs, I see a lot of uncle, auntie, cousin, and is that common?
Yeah.
Amongst Native people?
Oh, yeah.
You feel that they're all related? Is that?
Yeah. Well, we're all relations, and yeah, very much so. And I am so sad. I've never seen reservation dogs because I don't have Hulu, and I've only heard fabulous things about it. Everybody loves it, and I've never seen it. But I hear that it's the indigenous people in it, indigenous people writing it, indigenous people directing it, and everything I've heard is it's right on the money. Yeah.
So you said you're Bear Clan.
Correct.
I want you to clarify for me. I think I read somewhere that Bear Clan it's not about genetics. It's about belonging with a certain animal totem or
we don't have spirit animals. That's something you guys made up or something. I don't know. We have clans. We have clans, and our clans are like our family. And it's really, we're matrilineal, so it goes through the mother's side.
Okay.
And so if my mother's a bear, I'm a bear.
So do people in California have Bear Clan?
I think, I don't know this for sure, but I think that all indigenous people have clans, and some of them are the same, but a lot of them are different because of where they live. You know, like we don't have antelope clans here, but somebody out west might. And so there's a lot of the same clan animals, but there's also quite a variety as well. And even within the Haudenosaunee, like not everybody has an eel clan, but some do. And so there's a variety. And it's very much, it's your family. It's not just a totem or a cute animal. It's your family. I'm a bear. And so consequently, I am related to any bear that I meet. If I go up to, I'm Onondowaga, but if I go up to Akwesasne and I run into somebody at Akwesasne who's Mohawk bear, they're my cousin. Okay, I'm related to them.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it's very much like a last name, you know? And so if you're Smith, you've got to be careful what Smiths you marry. You know, you gotta be careful of that. You don't date your clan. Okay.
As a non-native person, I can adopt the values you've described, but can I join the religion?
I would say no, because it's not like we meet on Sundays or Saturdays or anything like that.
Proselytizing, you don't go out and try to recruit people. Right?
No, we absolutely do not. Yeah. And but I do encourage people to adopt just the love of nature and noticing nature and being grateful for things. I think everybody can do that, and that would not be like cultural appropriation. Don't burn white sage, don't buy white sage. white sage is very endangered and people just go out in the deserts and it doesn't grow fast. And so culinary sage grows around here. I have more than enough in my yard. Burn that. It does have antibacterial properties, okay? But don't go smudging with white sage. It's really, really bad because it's getting endangered because it you can buy white sage at Walmart and crazy Five Below and places like that. And so it's really doing a nasty job on the ecosystem out west. So we're more than happy. In fact, Robin Wall Kimmerer, she's Anishinaabe, she's not Haudenosaunee. So when she was talking about the thankfulness address and some of the Haudenosaunee things in here, she specifically asked Orrin Lyons, who is one of our chiefs on Onondowaga, asked him, can I write about this? Can I put it in my book? Is it okay? And he's like, yes, we want more people to be grateful for the earth and to notice the earth and take care of the earth. And yeah, definitely, he said they should have listened to us 500 years ago. Which brings me to another point, is that basically all of our ways were illegal for several hundred years. I mean, when I say all of our ways, our language, our singing, our dancing, like being Indian or being Native was essentially illegal by the civilization regulations. Think about that name, civilization regulations. And when that got rescinded was 1978. Oh God. 1978, it was legal to speak our language again and sing our songs. I was in college. Ooh. So that was a big chunk of time. And that's just crazy to think about. And so along with our language and everything like that, controlled burns, illegal. You know, mussel beds and oyster beds, illegal. Kelp gardens, illegal. I mean, you name it. And then killing.
On various grounds.
What's that?
Hunting on various grounds.
Oh yeah, I mean, like hunting was our way of life, and it was illegal for us to hunt places. And in every single treaty that was ever written, which all have been broken, we have demanded hunting and fishing rights. So, okay, you want to farm this land or you want to live on this land, okay, but we have rights to hunt and fish there. And that has been the case across Turtle Island, and yet natives have been arrested and shot and their boats rammed by the Coast Guard and all kinds of things for fishing and stuff. So, yeah, so back to the environment and all the things that we used to do to steward the environment from the Atlantic coast to the Pacific coast were illegal for several hundred years. And now they're not illegal, but now the Nature Conservancy and the World Wildlife Foundation and the state of California and this group and that group and this county and that state are asking the native people, how do we do this? How do we do the controlled burns? How do we raise the kelp beds? How do we have the oyster beds? Because not just that the oyster beds are good to eat, but they help with erosion and the health of the ocean and things like that. And then there's the buffalo, the bison, which were specifically killed to kill the Indian. For every buffalo that's dead is another dead Indian. I think I got that a little bit wrong, but you get the gist of it. And so not only did they kill all these buffalo, but then when they piled them up, they put strychnine in so that the wolves and the Indians would get sick and die if they ate the buffalo meat, the bison meat. But the bison, killing the bison is predominantly what brought on the Dust Bowl. Yeah, it was dry and yeah, it was windy, but you had eliminated all those grasses. And those grasses were fertilized and aerated and the, you know, when they defecate, they would spread the seeds around. You get rid of the bison and you have really messed up the ecosystem. And so the Dust Bowl was brought upon themselves, really. And also just like trying to grow in areas where you shouldn't. I mean, some common sense, but some white men again had to make money with the railroad. And so they were encouraging people to do all these crazy things because they wanted people to use the railroad. And, you know, so it all goes back to money. Certain people making money, which is sad. Before we wrap up, I want to share this with you. Well, it's a couple things I brought. Maple syrup, and I'm not sharing it with you. I'm just, you can look at it, that's all. I brought maple syrup because it's the season, and this weekend at Helmer Nature Center in Arundecoit, they have a 2-day pancake and maple syrup thing out there, which is lovely. And you can have tours of their sugaring shack, and they collect sap there, and they do it as part of the Arundecoit school system. And for
Next.
not this
coming week.
This weekend is Onondowaga.
Yes, sorry.
It's a good thing I've got my associates here. This weekend, go to Onondowaga. It's the winter arts and sports festival, winter food and sports. They change the name every year because like they try to do the snow snake and then they don't have any snow. And but there will be maple syrup and sled dogs at Onondowaga. So please go to Onondowaga this weekend. It's free. They welcome donations. Then the following weekend is Helmer Nature Center for their Maple Festival, pancakes, touring the facility, and Indigenous Peoples Day will be there. I'll be telling some stories on Saturday. Different stories, so you'll hear different stories, and we'll also have some representatives there on Sunday. At the 2 tables are flyers for Onondowaga, and also later in the month there's a Ripples of Plastic, which is a movie on plastic in the Great Lakes, and it's put on by Ron Rights of Nature, and we really encourage you to come out to the Unitarian Church for that. And
When is that?
that is, I think, the 22nd, but there's a flyer back there. And then there's also some information for no stamp stopping the data center that's being built right adjacent to my reservation, the Tonawanda reservation. And we have information back there in a QR code. And they just keep trying to build bigger and bigger and crazier things right out our back door, which is also where the Montezuma Game Refuge is and nature centers and stuff. It's the most ridiculous place to put this. And there's also not infrastructure in place. There's not sewer systems, there's not water. Everyone on Tonawanda is on well water. And anyway, it's crazy, and it's your tax dollars that are going into this, like a lot, like it's in the billions of dollars that Hochul is considering giving to this thing. So there's information on the back table to look into that. And I did bring one wampum belt with me today that this is not the oldest wampum belt, but it's one of the older wampum belts. Not this one, I made this one. But this is called One Dish, One Spoon, or One Bowl, One Spoon. And the bowl or dish is the purple and the spoon is white. And its significance is a treaty between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe, which is again the Great Lakes Basin area. And what it basically was saying is that, you know, you've got your territory and we've got our territory. And, you know, we don't really want to be messing with each other's territory, but there's a lot of territory in between that we can share. We can share the territory, but part of sharing is also caring. We have to care for the territory. Like I can't go in and hunt all the deer because then you're not going to have them. And also it's going to hurt the population for the future. We have to care for it. And everyone should eat out of the same size bowl with the same size spoon. So one group or person shouldn't get more than the rest. And also the spoon was chosen as opposed to a knife because a knife, somebody could get hurt. And so we were keeping it all nice and friendly. And so this has been around for, I have no idea how long, like thousands of years maybe, a long time. And as new people came to the territory, we always invited people to join in on the treaty of the one bowl, one spoon, of just sharing and caring for the land. And some of the settlers, that came along, the colonizer settlers, did agree to this, but then didn't adhere to it, and then others didn't want to have anything to do with it. But anyway, it means a lot to me. I love this wampum belt and this treaty, and this is a treaty that has not been broken by the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee. We still honor this treaty to this day. So I thought I would share that with you. If anyone wants to take a look at the Serviceberry book, you're welcome to. This has too many bookmarks in it for me to share. Anyway, yeah, it was lovely having you here. You're an awesome audience, and yeah, thank you.
So much for being here. We're so lucky to have you, and for two more sessions.
Yeah.
I'm Rabbi Zohar. If you don't know me, I couldn't hear at the beginning, but I joined. Just to say, I'm really proud of all the people who came. I think we had more than 50 people. It's amazing. Tomorrow morning at 9:30, we're starting a semester of intuitive movement and gentle yoga. 9:30, you're welcome to come. And at 10:45, there's a class of Talmudic discourse and contemporary events. We're going to be discussing war ethics in Judaism, kind of a way for, yeah, so if you want, that's 10:45. Once again, thank you so much. This is great, and you know, we're lucky.
And also there's the side of if you're interested in what you
I'm going to move this for 1 second. So we can take a picture. Actually, that one here. And then we can take a picture back. It occurred to me that first people very often send
Thank you so much for facilitating this.
No problem.
Yeah,
This is great.
This is a great program. I'm so happy with it.
So we had to get Julia because we needed more chairs.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough.
Well, this is amazing. We had more than 50 people here. This is wonderful. I'm very proud of our temple. Thank you. Thank you for.
Yes,
Sapir
stepped up all over the place.
reached out to me just about Sapir reached out about Beyond the Bagel.
Yeah.
I have 2 dates open because I've been working on it.
So I was at the Jewish home today, and their CEO wants to come here to discuss an opening a whole neighborhood there.
Yes, they are.
So he wants to talk to our people about it. He's thinking some of us might be wanting to go there, live there.
Well, it's nice to know what they're doing because
So would you agree that they will come over there? So I can have Sapir organize the day.
yeah, I would like to do it. Let's do it. If we can do April 19th.
So
That's the first
well,
one.
yeah, sure, why not?
And then I was gonna call, well, I left a message there, Sapir probably, so we could set up a meeting.
Yeah. So yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because, and we had a great little session on Sunday, or Beyond the Bagel, what should we be doing in the future?
Yeah, so we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we had a great session.
I have a Haudenosaunee flag.
Okay.
That I picked up at the last festival.
Okay.
And it's folded, and I didn't know what to do with it because I live in a small place. And I'm wondering if I can gift it to the temple and maybe